Devil, my friend. I think we should have a little quick conversation about everybody's respectful celestial abodes, where it be my little coffin where I lay my head at night, or at times that you feel that you just want to go back down to make sure that hell's not getting out of whack while you are away. Let's talk about Vampire and Devil's newest partnership in Twisted Vines, our dear friends, Chris and Sarah and Cadaver.
Oh yeah, you like scary stuff, you like horror decor, come and check out Twisted Vines. They make all the kind of cool shit, all for your house, all kinds of scary shit. They love it. You like to bring back the horror, you want to scare your neighbors, you want to conjure up a friend to talk to, you want to conjure up somebody bad, you want to do some bad stuff to them, you go to Twisted Vines and get some of their merch.
Absolutely, for sure. Everything is completely handmade by them. So if you need a little friend, maybe a round set abode, maybe you want to conduct a little evil towards a friend that was a friend, maybe no longer a friend. They have voodoo dolls they can do for you to allow for such activities. But you know how much we love our Ouija boards, my friend, and they make all of those by hand. They took care of your beloved vampire with a nice Nosferatu board, but the devil, he happens to be a Munsters fan. And not only do they do boards as traditional rectangles, but they can put a little bit of coffin flair in them.
Oh yeah, look at that coffin shape Munster board. Yeah, you wanna conjure up Mr. Herman? You wanna ask him how Pet Cemetery was? You can do it on this board. Oh yeah.
Absolutely, my friend. So again, thank you so much to Twisted Vines for partnering with the Vampire and Devil podcast, and make sure that you Fangs and Infernos are checking them out on their Facebook page, on their Instagram pages, and making sure that you are checking them out as they move around the country, showing their craft off at all of the various horror cons and oddities expos that they love to do. So absolutely, my friend, of course, man, horns up, fangs out for our friends at Twisted Vines.
Oh yeah.
All right, Fangs and Infernos, we've got another film to discuss courtesy of you, as you have voted our alphabets of horror. So, Devil, my friend, I say we spill the tea as we talk a little bit also about a movie directed by, to a certain degree, a V&D alumnus, as even though this movie came out later, we discussed it already. And that being the director of Ghost Ship in Steve Beck. But again, I think it's time, my friend, that we spill the tea.
Yeah, I mean, 13 Ghosts is a popular movie. I mean, what's not to love about it? It's cool. You have a lot of you have a V&D alumni with Kurtzman back when he was working with Tom Berger and Greg Gutero, KGB, the effects company, doing that kind of stuff. It's kind of have a resurgence now because they're talking about a TV series that's supposed to be coming out that people have been wanting, because we wanted to know more about these ghosts that you kind of find a little bit about, but we would have liked to have a little more backstory about some of them. So that's cool that they're doing that. And then, it's one of those ones that, I mean, I know I'll probably piss off the Scream people and stuff like that, but it's actually a movie that I find Matthew Lillard is like one of my favorite movies, as far as him. I mean, the biggest one is always going to either be between SLC Punk and Hackers. Those are always been my favorite two that he's done. And like I said, it's not that I didn't really mind him in Scream, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I like him in Scream. I liked his character and stuff like that. But I always thought his character in 13 Ghosts was cool. I just like the whole, don't touch me weird, psychic kind of vibe guy that he had. But yeah, I mean, it's cool. And it's another thing I read about too that was interesting, that, it's the first American film to have the main three actors be Arab Americans, which, obviously, you have the guy who played Monk, he was, I always knew that he was an Arab American. And then you have the bad guy that play, that I can't remember his character's name, but the main bad guy that was his uncle that made the house. I always
Yeah.
know that actor as always being an Arab American, but I honestly didn't know that Shannon Elizabeth was considered an Arab American. I guess like her father was Middle Eastern, and had that. I think he might have been Pakistani, or I don't. I mean, I'm not 100% sure what she is. I don't want to say the wrong one and be like, oh no, like arguing, like, oh no, it's really Pakistan. People are fighting against each other. I'm not 100% sure. I just know that she is of Arab descent. So I thought that was kind of cool. I never knew that. So it's one of those ones like like Charlize Theron when people talk about her being born in South Africa. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's like, oh shit, really? Like I always thought she was just America, like born in America. But that's cool. So that's kind of cool with her. And like I said, I love the dad in this obviously because I love his character and Monk and stuff like that. The germaphobe. I'm like, oh man, I love to fuck around with people like that because it's so fun to mess around with people who are like that extreme, of a germaphobe, like he was on
Yeah.
that show. And then like, who doesn't love Shannon Elizabeth? I mean, from all the stuff she did, Jay and Silent Bob. Oop, I just filled the cup.
Oh yeah. And you know, uh you gotta give a little shout out to the man that, put his dick in a pie.
Yeah, yeah, a little bit of American Pie, but yeah, like I said, this movie's always been like a fun movie. I've always liked it. I thought it was cool. You can definitely tell it has that, even though, like you said, Ghost Ship has that later vibes. You can definitely tell you can tell it's done by the same people, same
Yeah.
producers, same directors. I mean, you have the split in this where the glass splits the guy, and you kind of have a lot of the split stuff in Ghost
Yeah.
Ship that we've talked about with Ghost Ship already. So it's kind of cool that we literally just talked about Ghost Ship like an episode before or something like 2 episodes before this, and now we're going back to the well of this guy again already. But like I said, the Fangs, it was between this one and what was the other one that we had that was kind of big for a minute. Ooh, what was the other team movie that we had that was kind of big? What the
Yeah,
fuck?
I'm trying to remember offhand because it was a fight.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Fuck. Now I'm trying to blank. But I know we had Tatetsu, which would have been cool. I know we had Tales from Halloween that we were
Tales
kind
from
of
the Dark
hoping.
Side.
Tales from the Dark Side. Yeah, I know. With Tales from the Tales of Halloween. We were kind of hoping that would make a little bit of splash. But yeah, it was a little fighting, which was kind of interesting because I figured 13 Ghosts was just gonna blow it out of a
Oh,
row, which is crazy. So, a little thing you might not know, and I'm gonna let the Fangs know this right now. It's kind of interesting. We do these alphabetical horrors, and the last season, the 80s basically ran wild with most of the ones, and we had some 80s ones and some 90 ones, but as this recording of the T right now, the last four alphabets have been the 2000s to 2013 movies. So
oh, damn.
apparently everybody's liking that genre. They're kind of jumping the fish and getting out of the 80s and 90s and going those 2000s. So we'll have to see how those go strong. But like I said, this movie is always a fun movie. I thought it was a cool premise. I always like it's way different than the original 13 Ghosts. It's
Way different.
completely different story, completely different background and whatnot. But I thought this movie was fun. I've always liked this is the design of it. I always thought it was really cool. That house, the glass house is awesome. And just
Mhm.
like the being, I've always wanted those glasses that you can see the ghosts. I thought
Yeah.
that was the coolest thing. I think they missed a point by marketing. I think they should have made those glasses. I mean, and I think they would have made some big bucks for people wanting them, even though, you know, we probably wouldn't be seeing any ghosts and stuff like that, but maybe just had the little neon lights in it. It'd be a little cool thing. But yeah, I mean, I thought this movie was fun.
Absolutely. I mean, they also just released, not only did you mention the TV series that's got coming up, but they also, it wasn't really that long ago that they released like a really high quality, like 4K or like major disc re-release with like new artwork and stuff like that. So there's definitely been 13 Ghost stuff that's been, released to kind of like remind everybody about what a cool like movie this was. And don't get me wrong, like there's a lot of great stuff about this movie. Like in my heart, this is a high obituary movie. In reality, not so much. Don't get me wrong, it's not going to be a plummet. It's not going to be ranked down there low. But there are certain things about the movie that are just kind of like interesting, and certain things kind of aged better than others. I love the story of this movie. I love the ghosts, of course. I love the actors and the cast. I wouldn't exactly say that the acting in this movie was exactly the strongest that I've ever seen, but I thought it was interesting enough. You've got the maid chick, Maggie, who, breaks the stereotype and survives till the end of the movie and stuff. But I always love the idea of the house, this kind of combination of like Ghost Prison almost kind of meets like H.H. Holmes, where it kind of has a bit of that murder castle feel to it. Because, yes, of course, you've got that, House on Haunted Hill ghosts right here that could easily kill you. But there was a certain amount of just, booby trapness to this house, just like you mentioned with the guy who got split in half, Ghost Ship or Resident Evil style, where he's just, all of a sudden he's no longer in one piece and just another good clean shear through. But it's also kind of cool too because going back to Stephen Beck, the director, is he's got this cool knack with the screenplays of doing these movies that have pretty cool, pretty epic opening scenes. I mean, you had the mass decapitation of Ghost Ship, but then you also had like the junkyard scene that opens up this movie that basically kind of plays it out to where you learn about the crazy uncle who owns the house, who traps ghosts with Matthew Lillard as basically his lackey. And but a bunch of the people that get offed right off the bat within 10 minutes of this movie are these like, construction worker kind of militant-ish type guys that get taken out by the Juggernaut ghost in some pretty fucking epic ways. I mean, for me in particular, the one in particular where the guy gets like broken in half like backwards and like just pulled in through the thin edge trunk of a car was just particularly awesome. But you get these victims that get off like pretty epically early in the movie. You have this giant like tanker truck, like semi truck comes in that's just like spraying blood all over the place, and there's just bodies laying down. And then ultimately, which is what leads to the quote unquote inheritance of the family going to the house, is the fact that one of the victims from all this madness, was the uncle himself. As he's trying to collect these ghosts and trying to get them, he ends up getting, just, impaled, sliced, killed straight up during this scene. And that's what leads to the whole, like I said, inheritance of people coming to the house, learning about it, where Matthew's kind of like, you don't really want to be involved. This is shit you don't really know about. But then you get a little bit of comic relief right off the bat as well, because you've got Shannon Elizabeth's character who's just so enamored with the bathroom. Like, that just seems like the only thing that she cares about for like 20 minutes.
Yeah, she just said like that's what when they came into the house, because it's all glass. She's like, I really hope the bathroom's in the basement. And it's like, oh yeah, you don't want to know what's in the basement there, lady. But yeah, but that was my. I mean, like I said, that's what I hope. With this television prequel kind of, about the ghost. That was my only really big life about this movie is like once you get into and you see the ghosts, and the ghosts are all awesome. I love everyone. I love the story
Yes.
behind. I love the story behind me. You got the torso, pilgrim, the jackal. The princess, the
Still the
prince.
best.
And all that stuff like that. Who doesn't? You got the princess in this. Getting to see some titties throughout the whole entire movie. So obviously the devil's gonna love that.
Yeah.
And then you have the little Indian boy. The kid with the arrow through his head. You have the mom and the big fat baby, and you have the sledgehammer guy. I was like, oh, dude, it's pretty awesome. But it's kind of like you got six people in a house. Like pretty much nobody gets killed. I
I
mean, Matthew
know.
Lillard's character gets killed. You have the lawyer dude that's bringing them in that gets wonked. But it's like, and then, obviously, like, the uncle, when you find out that the uncle really didn't die and he's like kind of just trying to do all this, he gets bonked. But it's like, yeah, I mean, you have all these epic, freaking awesome ghosts that all have like really cool killing abilities and
Yeah.
powers and shit. And really nobody dies. It'd have been cooler if it would have been like if they would have done it more like instead of like an inheritance, maybe something like that, but like do it like House on Haunted Hill where you have like a group of people, you have like 10 or 12 people that you don't give a fuck about that are just gonna
Yeah.
get whacked so you can see some cool ghost kills. And not saying that the things that do happen when the ghosts are going after them, I love it. I love the fact that like they have the spells that are keeping them behind glass and they're hitting the glass and they're trying to get out and it's keeping them at bay and stuff like that. So it's really really cool. But yeah, the glass house is really really neat and it's kind of a I can kind of we can kind of joke around about it. Something now that, we're always talking about these exclusive things. We've always talked about, as the recording of this one, everybody has found out that, the big star of the comedians that all the women are swooning about, Matt Rife, now
Yep.
owns the rights to the Ed and Lorraine house, and just kind of the caretaker for 5 years, even though they're the brother-in-law still technically runs it and stuff like that. They're just like the caretakers, but they're obviously talking about making the museum open again so people can go visit. But they're also he's going to make the house kind of like a bed and breakfast kind of place. I'm like,
Yeah.
I really hope that they decide to do make a house like this house and have it where you're staying in a house, but you're also protected by you know evil spirit wards that can kind of keep you, because it's like, yeah, going to the house and one thing is cool and visiting stuff, but staying in a house that has all that evil artifacts and stuff in it. Yeah, I know Ed and Lorraine lived there for many, many, many years and nothing happened to them, but they're also demonologists who know if who knows if something didn't happen. They're not going to come out and say like, one of the spirits got out. They're just going to kick its ass, put it back in the basement, and do it again. But who's to know whether or not me or you are staying, or some Jew Joe Smokes is going to stay there, whether or not some of them are going to come out and play. It's like, yeah, visiting for a couple hours is cool, but I don't know about staying overnight at that place unless they, like I said, unless they booby trap it like the house in this movie.
Yeah, and it is kind of interesting with that devil because yeah, because when it comes to like Arthur's character, like I like the way that they set it up where because like it's 12 actual ghosts with the 13th ghost being what needs to be basically the sacrificial lamb that will open, kind of open the gates of hell kind of a thing. And it's just kind of interesting because they play off of Arthur as this like broken-hearted man whose wife is actually one of the ghosts, and it's the idea of like a self-sacrifice of pure love to become a ghost in order to open everything up. And that was something I didn't overly love about the way they wrote that because it seemed it seemed weird to me to have a bunch of, in theory, like kind of evil spirits, like evil pissed off type spirits. And don't get me wrong, it's not that they all necessarily lived evil lives because you could tell by some of them, Arthur's wife dying by, with the medical situation. Then you had the kid who died because he took an arrow through his head. I mean, not all of these people are necessarily. That's what's going to make this series, assuming it actually happens, so great. Is really learning the backstory because I love backstory. Everybody knows that about me, and but it also makes me curious about how you got chosen specifically as a 13 as one of the ghosts when there's millions upon millions of spirits out there of genuinely shitty humans who could be a pissed off spirit versus a kid who just kind of potentially died from a hunting accident or fucking around with his friends. But I've always found that to be a little interesting, like how the ghosts were, how they were chosen, why they were specifically imprisoned. Because again, the uncle was to a certain degree a ghost hunter, kind of a ghost trapper. So him tracking and finding these ghosts to grab and lock them in this house, I mean, that part does make sense. But it's the part of human self-sacrifice to make you a ghost as the catalyst and fill the final slot or fill the final void to then raise hell on the whole world. It seemed just a little bit bizarre to me. And again, just like you said, there's minimal kills in this. Really, the most entertaining kill scene of the entire movie is the opening 10 minutes. I loved watching the guy getting sliced in half. Honestly, the way that Matthew Lillard was killed was actually pretty epic. Just a good old fashioned just backbreaker by the juggernaut around like a steel pole. Like that was pretty sick, it was pretty cool. And then just the idea of the uncle, at the end of the movie, basically getting just thrown into the moving gears of this, this house. It's like a giant, it's a giant machine. It's a clock. Like I said, it's got that clock feel. Again, it's very H.H. Holmes Murder House. And then, they're able to destroy the machinery. He's thrown in and just fucking cut to bits. But again, that was the thing that was always kind of weird to me. Is like, well, they kind of technically gave them another spirit, but again, it seemed that if it's not, pure, untainted love, it doesn't work for this particular cause. But they got a 13th spirit out of it. It just was kind of bizarre how they did it. And as much as I like her as an actress, because also it's kind of rad considering that she was in Army of Darkness, Kalina or Kalita, whatever her name is, felt so written in like a
Yeah, she was
space
so
filler,
underused.
dude. She just didn't, you know, because you had this weird infatuation that she had with the uncle, like loving him or working for him or both. But then you also had like Matthew Lillard, who was kind of serving the same purpose to a certain degree as like the lackey and like to help him trap the ghosts and stuff. So she felt very forced in to this movie for me. And I mean, I don't hate the character and I definitely don't hate the actress, but I could never figure out her real purpose other than the ability to make the movie reach its 90-minute quota by having her film some scenes.
Yeah, like I figured it was just she was in there for the twist plot. She's coming
Yeah,
in, all of a sudden, like, I need to stop this and I'm gonna blow this place up. And then it's like, oh wait, I'm with the uncle. Hoo tee tee. And then 2 seconds after you find that out, he kills her. So it's like, well, what's the fucking point of her? Like her, and like you said too, like even like I said, unfortunately, as far as everybody knows, as far as I know, as myself, I don't have any children. I mean, there might be some bastards out there that I don't know about, but who knows? But anyway, if I did have any children, like if I never, like you were saying about the sacrifice and stuff like that, to me, I understand. Yeah, a parent should sacrifice themselves for their children.
of
But
course.
in that case, if you're going to sacrifice yourself to save your children, to raise the demons and the monsters and destroy the world and stuff like that, is it really worth? Because your kids are going to get killed and tortured anyway. So why are you sacrificing yourself to save your kids when it's going to be the end of the world anyway? Because once you sacrifice yourself, all the gates of hell come out, demons come out, and everybody's set killing everybody, and it's hell on earth and shit like that. It's like, yeah, we're gonna go around, the demons and the devils are gonna go around killing you. So you sacrifice yourself for your kids for no fucking reason because now you're dead. And hey, wait, guess what? Now I'm gonna go kill your kids because I'm a free devil or a free demon out now. So it's
And
like I
it,
never understood that. Like in movies when they're like, oh yeah, I'm gonna sacrifice myself for that. I'm like, I mean, like I said, doing it like Michael Myers is coming after your kids, and you go in front of them and stop yourself from getting killed so that your kids can run away. I understand that kind of shit. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, doing that. But if you die and it's prophesized that you die by this certain way, and this certain way is gonna unlock the gates of hell and whatever, the world's gonna, or even just like Thanos, the world's just gonna blow and explode or something like that if you die this way because it's prophesized. Yeah, sacrificing yourself is it really worth saving your kids to kill the whole entire world now? Like, you know what I mean? Like you joke around with it where it's like, people come to you and tell you like, would if you had the possibility to cure all cancers and all diseases, and the only thing you had to do was sacrifice your mother, would you do it? People are like, I would sacrifice my mom. I'm like, I'm pretty sure my mom would be like, fuck yeah, man. I mean, I know it sucks that I died, but it'd be kind of cool to be known to I died to cure all cancers and cure all diseases and maybe
right.
basically heal the world or something like that. Where it's that's something I can understand, that sacrifice and stuff like that. But yeah, it's like, would you kill your mother to, would you
To
kill
raise the
yourself to save
dead.
your mother to raise the world and blow it up? What is the point? I'm like, no, if that's gonna happen, and the only way you can do is by using me, yeah, I'm not gonna sacrifice myself. Sorry about that.
And it's weird, Devil, too, because like this movie's not written, at least not from my interpretation. It's not written, portrayed, or executed as a religious movie, but at the same time, you're self-sacrificing, yourself for your children potentially. but sacrificing yourself to a certain degree is, you know, in the tree-ish ether of suicide, which is a mortal sin. And
Yeah.
it's so much weird, like
Yeah,
so much
yeah, it's weird when
weird.
it comes to that kind of stuff, especially with religion and stuff like that, with that, where it's like, suicide being the ultimate sin. But if
Yeah.
you kill yourself for somebody, like, like if you're in the military, and a grenade comes down and you jump in front of a grenade to save your platoon, even though that technically is a suicide because you purposely sacrificed your body to save people, you're not considered a suicide, so that you're going to heaven. But then, in theory, he did kill himself. You know
Right.
what I mean? He did put himself on that grenade. So it's so weird when it comes to that, that kind of stuff where it's like, okay, you can't do this, but you can do that, but you can't do. It's like, but it's the same thing because you're sacrificing yourself. Like kamikazes with Japanese people and stuff like that. With them killing themselves, and like, I'm
Yeah.
like, so it's like I never understood. It's like, so it's mortal sin, but if you just offing yourself, like you just go and hang yourself because you hang yourself, or slit your wrist or go kill yourself or something, however, or you're gonna do it, that's bad. But if you kill yourself saving somebody, it's different than. But I'm like, you're still sacrificing yourself. Not that we're going out and telling people to go and commit suicide,
No.
but if you're gonna go commit suicide, do it to save somebody else, because then your soul is gonna be saved.
Right. Make sure that there's 72 virgins waiting for you or something like that.
Yeah.
Like do something when it comes to that. But yeah, it's just I'd love I would love to be able, and I'm not saying I have to sit back in the room with a pen in my hand, although that would kind of rock because again, I really do like this movie. But man, I would really fucking love, you know, for this movie to be able to go back and keep the concept of this movie, the storyboard behind it, all the special effects with the way that they did it, the same people, the same companies, the same look of all the ghosts. But fuck, I would really love to just make them take a month of screenwriting, like extend the screenwriting process to like so that they could like, take a second, breathe, think this through, think about the concepts. What are we trying to explain? How do we want it to be portrayed? How is somebody gonna see it? How might they see it? Again, one of the great things about film, especially horror and especially anything involving anything paranormal, is the ability to really come to your own conclusions and how things are done and how they're being portrayed. But that's just one thing I really wish I could go back and change about this movie is that ability for them to slow down on the screenplay, really think it through, dot those I's, cross their T's, and really check for those loopholes. Because the movie, as far as the writing of it, and again, the portrayal of the acting, is definitely very 2001. And I would just really love if this script itself was just more polished. I think this, and it's still so popular. And again, I can't emphasize enough how much I genuinely like this movie. But man, if it was just more polished,
Yeah.
dude, this movie could have been a fucking banger, dude. Like
Well, yeah,
really
especially.
on a really high level.
Yeah, especially with the ending, because like you said, they saved the day, but I'm like, did you really save the day? The Juggernaut he was talking about, I thought you only said he killed 9 people. Well, yeah, he only killed 9 people while he was alive. You've killed another 30 some 40 people while he's dead. You just let him go. He's just able to walk back. You think
Mhm.
he's gonna just all of a sudden go, oh yeah, I'm gonna quit my ways of killing? No, he's just gonna go back to the freaking probably the
Right.
junkyard and go kill again. It's like you just let all. It'd be different if they were like, if you like in some movies where all of a sudden, you let everybody go and their spirits go to like heaven or something like that. That'd be different. No, they're just walking. They're just walking out of the building like do 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 do. I'm like, yep, we're gonna
Right.
go fucking kill some more people. So thanks a lot. Not only did you just save your own ass, you just killed hundreds of other people that these ghosts are gonna go out and kill again.
Yeah, at least in Ghost Ship, you saw them ascending up to
Yeah,
heaven,
yeah.
stuff
So,
like that.
so those, even if those ghosts were bad, they're not
Yeah.
going to be able to do any more bad shit. These guys are still going to do bad shit.
You let these guys just go back out into the population to just fucking up their body count. So very, very bizarre when it came to this movie, Devil, and just the way that it was written and the way it was executed. Again, love this movie, but what the fuck? So anyway, on the grounds of what the fuck, let's talk a little bit about the obituaries, my friend, and how we rank this movie. I'll keep it short and sweet because I pretty much dialed it in during this whole conversation. I love the movie. I love the ghosts. The acting's strong enough, but mediocre at best. The storyboard was right there, but just not polished enough. And I do, and I like the casting. I think it's cool. I think it's solid. Love the house, and I love the majority of practical effects and the applicable, CGI effects. Overall, it works for me. Like in my heart, this movie is an 8.5, but in reality, I'm not gonna smash on it, but I am gonna knock it down a full number, and I'm gonna give it a 7.5 overall on the obituaries.
Oh yeah, I mean, I definitely will match you with that 7.5 because that's about where I was at. Between it's like I mean, I want to give it a little bit more, but then I was like, I want to kind of give it a little bit less. But that's
Yeah.
like I said, but it's a movie that I enjoy. I can watch it a million times. It's just a fun movie, and like I said, yeah, it has its problems and stuff like that. So it's like you never know, what you're gonna get and stuff like that with it. But it's cool. It's a fun movie. I'll watch it over again. I'll watch it a million times, and I'm always gonna have a blast. So it's like I can't knock it too bad because at least it's one of those movies where yeah, if I didn't like it, then maybe seven's like one of those ones where okay, maybe I might watch it sometimes, but no, I'll watch. I've watched 13 Ghosts at least once or twice every year. It's been or at least every maybe a couple of years or something like that. I've always will go down to it. I'm like if I'm going down like a Matthew Lillard, rabbit hole, or go see Shannon Elizabeth Lillard hole, or something like that. Maybe I might go
Yeah.
into it. But yeah, so like I said, for me, it's like it's a fun movie, and like I said, the fact that it's been made, how many years ago, and people are still interested, and people are still doing it. We had our friend, our friend of the show, Kid Dreadful. She's done the
Dude,
Jackal and stuff like that.
so
So,
awesome.
and you see, there was a guy at the Con Monster Mania that was dressed up as a big jackal, and it was funny because they took a picture that basically looked like a daddy and daughter jackal. So it's kind of cool that people are still dressing as a lot of these characters, these ghosts and stuff like that you saw from a movie that was 15, 20 plus years ago or so. So it's still cool that it's got still has that resonation, and then it's just going to make it more if this series gets on, does get out and people be able to watch it. So yeah, so it's like for the staying power of it, and like I said, and the fun of Matthew Lillard throughout the whole entire movie. Yeah,
Yeah.
you got to give it a 7.5.
Absolutely, man. So that's the way it's going to be. Fangs and Infernos etched in stone. Your guys' pick in the alphabets of horror for letter T in 13 Ghosts. 7.5 as spoken on by the devil and the vampire. So that's the way it's going to be. Make sure that you guys are dressed to impress and looking stellar to dismember in rock and horror. Taking care of us. So please take care of them. All of the official merchandise for the Vampire and Devil podcast can be found right through rockandhorror.com. We absolutely love Mark and Lizzie for everything that they do for us. Our friends at Twisted Vines getting into the spooky season. Those stores are out there putting out some Halloween decor, but if you want some really cool, unique stuff that's specialty made, check out Saren and Chris with everything that they're doing at Twisted Vines. Make sure that you're supporting the small businesses and the amazing museums like our brother John over at the Salem Witchboard Museum, as well as the Witchboard Museum of Baltimore. And then, of course, since we were talking about teas, don't spill the tea because you have to be able to consume it and drink it and enjoy it. Our friends at Brutalities have all kinds of great stuff lined up. Great, great infusions. They work with Wednesday 13, who myself and Devil are big fans of. We love that band. We're friends with the band, and we love to support everything that they do, just like we like to support everything that Brutalities is. And you know what? Let's make things a little bit hot as we close it out with a little bit of fucking Slayer, since Devil and
Slayer.
I were having that conversation earlier. Our dear friend Aaron at Coney Island Sauceries. Make sure that you're using that Vampire and Devil, discount code for 15% off all of the hot sauces. He does a bunch of great ones for the Trailer Park Boys, but also if you like it hot, man, hot, 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 dude, he's got this bitchin' Slayer, completely officially, set up with the band. right on ConeyIslandSaucery.com. But Vampire and Devil, that is your discount code to save things up a little bit. And I'm going to throw in one more for me, for you guys, since Devil and I were talking about, losing the great, great Ozzy Osbourne. If you guys go to Strung Jewelry, getstrung.com, they do have specialty Ozzy tribute bracelets that they put together for the song Mama I'm Coming Home. They also have a guitar string one with a bat on it for Crazy Train, as well as a black beaded one for Paranoid as well. And if you want to save a little bit of green, as the words of the great, great Devil, a little bit of cheddar when it comes to your jewelry, use Salem J at getstrung.com to save yourselves 20% off of your jewelry. As always, when it comes to our dearly and beloved and departed Ozzy Osbourne. But we're going to sign off for this one, man. It's been a great conversation about 13 Ghosts. Again, 7.5 on the obituaries. Horns up. Fangs out. Devil, my friend.
Oh, yeah.
I think if there's anybody who would know hot things, it's you.
Oh, yeah.
So I think it's only right that you let our beloved Fangs know what they can order now, courtesy of Coney Island.
Oh, yeah, man. We're in the kitchen. You know it gets hot in the kitchen. And what else better for your finger foods, for your tacos, for your victims that you may be eating? Maybe some sauce. And you should get it from the sauce boss, Coney Island sauce. Oh, yeah. Get some of that good stuff. Oh, yeah. You like to sprinkle it on anything. You could sprinkle it on your fingers. Sprinkle it on your toes. Sprinkle it on your hose. Anything you want to sprinkle goes.
Absolutely. We have partnered with Coney Island Saucery. Aaron is fantastic. We really appreciate all the love he's given to the show, and we're very, very pleased and honored to be a part of him. So he's got 4 sauces out of various heat levels to enjoy on all your various foods, but also for anybody who is already following his socials, our socials, or is about to be, newly announced partnership with Slayer.
Slayer, oh yeah.
Coney Island
burning to fire.
Oh yeah, Coney Island Saucery does have a Slayer brand hot sauce coming out very, very soon. And so make sure that you check that out for all your various levels of spice. This is Vampire and the Devil, Coney Island Saucery. Horns up, fangs out. Devil, my friend, I think it's time that we spill the tea. Brutalities. Vampire and Devil podcast couldn't be more excited, more humbled to let you all know that we have partnered with very dear friends of ours for a long time in Brutalities. And there's so much great stuff, so many flavors, so much to enjoy, and we're going to talk to you a little bit about it. Isn't that right there, my friend?
Oh yeah, we like it hot. Of course the Inferno likes it hot. Do you like the hot tea? Well, you might as well get some brutality. Yeah, horror movies, puns, rock and roll, brutality's got it all.
Absolutely. When it comes to the vampire, you know that he's going to absolutely gravitate towards that Nosferatu or that Nosferatu brew. Absolutely a favorite of mine. And we got to show a little bit love to, by all means, the biggest franchise in horror right now. That would be Terrifier. So Brutalities has brought you Terrifier. But that's just from the vampire. The devil has some favorites of his own.
Oh yeah, do you like the movie Pumpkinhead? Well, how about a little pumpkin bread for your throat holes? And like I said, with the rock and roll fans and the horror fans, Wednesday 13 fans, do you like Wednesday 13 and tea? How about a couple of those? With the Summertime Suicide and a couple other ones too. So if you like Wednesday 13 and you like the tea and you like the brutalities, go to the website.
Absolutely. And so, of course, we like to look out for those that look out for us. We love you, Fangs. We love you, Infernos. But as a courtesy from Brutalities to be bestowed on you, we have that Vampire and Devil coupon code, don't we, my friend?
Oh, yeah. You want to save a little dough, little cheddar, maybe buy some more shit? Go on the line, Brutalities, type in Vampire and Devil, and you get 10% off your order. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, definitely. So it's getting into the chilly weather. People need to warm their bones. They need to warm what little skin they may or may not have. But Brutalities is the way to get it done. So that's the way it's going to be because Vampire and Devil said so. Horns up, fangs out for Brutalities.
What's up,
Kiddies, it's time to talk about those 90 horror films that we love with the comedy in it. This time we're going to talk about 1998's Bride of Chucky. Who doesn't love Chucky? Who doesn't love a bride? Who doesn't love Tiffany? Who doesn't love Jennifer Tilly? Smoking hot. Oh yeah, Chucky's gonna get a little bit of loving. Oh yeah, you gotta love this movie. It's got it all. It's got blood, it's got guts, it's got comedy, it's got lots of Jennifer Tilly's body. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, you gotta love you some Chucky. And then what's he gonna do next? Nobody knows. Check it out. Bride of Chucky. Yeah.
Bangs and Infernos, it's always important to make sure that you're checking your locked doors, checking your windows, making sure that the basement doors, the hatches are all secured, because the last thing that you want to deal with or run the risk of is a home invasion. However, home invasions tend to bring myself and the devil a little bit of joy as we get to discover, intimidate, and explore the perils, the trials and tribulations of what a house invasion could cause and the occurrences of such. So, Devil, my friend, why don't you, what do you say we discuss a couple of home invasion movies on this particular showdown?
Oh yeah, we love a little bit of home invasion because there's always going to be some blood, some guts. And this one's a little bit different. We got some, we got people invading a blind person's house, and then people sort of invading family houses. And who people do say that family is the dirty F word, and in the case of Your Next, when we talk about that, family is a bitch.
Yeah. No, absolutely. This is definitely going to be a lot of fun as we're going to put Your Next up against Don't Breathe. And it's going to be interesting, man, because you've got Your Next, which is that more traditional home invasion style when it comes to a group of people looking to do bad things incognito, versus a movie that's based similarly, of course, because like, oh yeah, home invasion is kind of a broad spectrum, but in these particular movies, in horror movies, they fall into basically the same type of stylistic categories. But then you've got Don't Breathe, which is these people trying to take advantage of what they think is just this blind guy who got a payout, to then find out that the blind guy isn't exactly, he's the victim, but he's not exactly the victim because he's kind of a shitbag. But we're going to cross that bridge when we get to it. But let's start off with a little bit of Your Next from 2011. I've always loved this movie. I'm a big fan of Your Next. As far as home invasion movies, when you were letting me know that this was going to be one of our categories and what movie I'd like to do, I knew that I wanted to do like Your Next. I think this movie's so fun. I think the kills are top notch. The way that the kills go down are really brutal and pretty sadistic. I like the fact that this movie has a bit of that like home invasion meets Rambo feel to it, but it also reminds me a lot of a more modern time movie that you and I are quite fond of outside the holiday season, in Violent Night. It just kind of has that feel to me of that inside job gone wrong, but with the hero person who's basically just like a reincarnation of Rambo.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I love about this movie. Like in these movies that have come out, where you have this, not always home invasion, but like a movie like Ready or Not, where they're talking about, this aristocrat, and they're bringing in people, and they think this person's going to be an easy kill or whatever like that. And, and even in this movie, I mean, you have the home invasion, and the brother brings his girlfriend over and stuff like that, and lo and behold, yeah, the girlfriend is whose parents used to be like crazy survivor people who taught her like kung fu and how to make weapons and shit. And basically, like you said, she's basically like a female Rambo who can just, or like a MacGyver, she can just put
Yeah.
shit together and make bombs and with bubble gum and shit. And yeah, doesn't quite go according. She's just once the invasion comes through, and even before you find out that, that, spoiler alert, that the family, there's part of the family is part of the invasion. She's just taking these motherfuckers out or just fucking them up. Like,
Yeah.
even like before she starts killing them, she's like, stabbing them in the arm or something in the thing. And she's just like, you could tell she's just like a badass chick. And they're like, oh yeah, we fucked up on this one, which is funny because that side of the story, she even says that, she hasn't told her boyfriend that her family was this. So he thought she was just this cute little, girl, like hee hee, like gonna do all this shit. And yeah, she just, and then when she gets that first kill and like the guy's watching it, she's just bashing him over and over again. They're like, he's dead, and she just keeps going over and over again. You're like, yeah, this is gonna be fun, and it just reminds me of, like you said, like that Violent Night, or those kind of movies where you think that you have the advantage because you're the ones breaking in, you're the one with the weapons, and then lo and behold, this chick isn't just your average chick. She's gonna fuck everybody up.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, Devil, before she really started going to town on these people, she showed off her skills off the bat when the one guy tried to grab her through the window and she just like Bruce Lee stabbed that dude, pinned that dude's arm to the windowsill with a knife and didn't take a whole lot of like force or really a lot of like effort to really do it. So she definitely showed that she has like some skill from, from the life that she said. But again, she hadn't really, you know, put it out there yet. She hadn't really put it on Front Street because even at the beginning it says like, this is kind of that, meeting the parents for the first time kind of thing. So like she's going with her boyfriend and so the likelihood is they probably haven't been together for very long. They're going through like kind of some money troubles because they're kind of like very like blue collar type people and things aren't really going their way, but the parents are quite wealthy because like dad had just retired from something like it was like I forget offhand, but it was a high quality like government type job, that you're gonna have pensions and great paychecks and benefits even in retirement. And then and it's basically just kind of that the family, kind of a family reunion kind of thing. It's the kids and their significant others coming over to the house to spend quality time with the parents. And I love the fact that the mom is Barbara Crompton, who's just a horror legend and so awesome to have her even in a small role like this. And don't get me wrong, it's not a small role. It's not like she's on screen for 6 seconds delivering the mail and then takes off. She's the mom. She's the main player in this movie, but ultimately, unfortunately, we don't see her at the end of the movie either. But it's that just kind of ultimate like design of that home invasion. Masked assailants coming in, slitting throats, killing people, taking people out as they're trying to figure out exactly why they're there also, because at first that's not really out there. It's really just a combination of like, well, it's bad people doing bad things to the innocent. But then like you said, ultimately it is an inside job, and like I mentioned, with the parents being so wealthy, this is ultimately about collecting an inheritance. It's kind of a home invasion's answer to the Menendez brothers.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what's crazy too. I mean, you know me, the devil, and I love my sin and all that crazy shit. But like you mentioned, Barbara Crampton's character gets killed and she's all bloody, and the one brother that you find out is in it, his girlfriend or wife or whatever, wants to have sex on the bed with his dead mom right there. And I'm like, I'm all about kink shit, but that's a little too freaky for me, having sex with, with your mother-in-law, like just bloody corpse right on the bed. I mean,
Yeah.
I would at least have, being the devil myself, I like some crazy kinky shit. I would at least kick the bitch off the bed before I
Yeah.
started getting it. I mean, that's what I would have done. I mean, yeah, I mean, granted, I probably wouldn't have killed my mother, but that's a different story. But you know what I mean? So yeah, I mean, I love it. I just thought it was cool. Like I said, her just going into town and just, she's making all these like, taking these pieces of wood and putting nails in it and making like booby traps. And she eventually at one point makes a booby trap for the door with a gun the whole entire time, and everybody keeps going through the broken window, and you're like, oh fuck, man, come on, man, someone's gonna go through it. And you're kind of thinking it's gonna be her boyfriend, because
Yeah.
he leaves for a little bit to go find help. And then, you think, oh God, that's set up. You're like, oh shit, he's gonna come home, open that door, blast him. But then you find out that the boyfriend is actually one of the guys, one of the brothers that's in on it too. And so but he keeps going through. So you're like, who the hell's gonna get it? Lo and behold, Popo comes, and he comes through the thing, and then he comes through the regular like open window door thing,
Fucking
and then
shoot her.
and then he decides to go out, call back up in and whatnot, and then decides to go through the front door, even though the first time he went through the window. I don't know why he wouldn't have gone through but he chose the wrong door, like on The Price is Right. He chose the wrong door and he got a shotgun blast.
He took an axe to the face,
Or the axe,
dude.
that's what it was. Yeah, that's what it
Yeah.
was. It was the axe.
The
It was the
axe hanging
shining
up top,
axe.
man. That dude needed answers, but that didn't know how to ask the right questions, man.
Yeah.
And that's the thing I actually loved about the way that the movie ended. And Fangs and Infernos, we're not going to wrap it up right there. It's just part of what Devil and I are talking about right now. That's actually also one of the things I really loved about the ending is that dude fucking takes it right between the eyes, directly simply into a splatter screen ending of the words "You're next" and right into the credits. Like there was no like vision or anything. It was just left up to your imagination. But with everything that was going on in that movie, you knew it was a wrap on the officer because it's funny too, because it kind of reminded me a little bit of when you and I were having the discussion about the movies Who Can Kill a Child, where it was like, about the idea of like, not asking the questions, assuming what you're seeing is correct. Where it's like this girl's been fighting for her life, just whacking fools for, an hour, trying to like keep herself from dying, finding out that her boyfriend was in it the whole time and that she technically wasn't supposed to die. She was supposed to be the witness to like clarify that, hey, these people came in, but because she was killing people and saw too much, heard too much, she had to be disposed of. She had to be a loose end for them to tie up. And I mean, I loved the idea of that, where again, she take takes dude out in another just epic way to have the officer just shoot first, ask questions later. To a certain degree, cop dude kind of had it coming. But at the same time, I love the creativity of a lot of the kills in this movie. You want to say what you want about a good axe to the face, machete throat slashes, garrote wires across your throat. But dude, stabbing somebody in the head with a blender blade and then plugging it in and turning it on, I don't care what you said. That's an epic kill.
Yeah, I love whenever he's like, "Where is he at?" Yeah, he's in the kitchen dead with a blender in his head.
He
Like,
says it so nonchalantly,
yeah.
yeah, I killed him with a blender.
Yeah, yeah, I killed him with and the other ones. That's the same thing. Same thing. Whenever when you find out it's the brothers and they just kill the dad, they just go to town on the dad, and it's like you're like, man, he's like, that's basically what it is these little spoiled rich kids who, mommy and daddy is giving them money, but not enough money, and they just want more, and don't want to work for a living. I mean, we all don't want to work for a living, but I'm not gonna kill my mom and dad. That's the thing I love about it too. It's like you can definitely tell it's like a rich house just because when you pull up to that house is huge. I mean, it's like fucking like 700 freaking room mansion. You know what I mean? It's like just crazy ass shit. So you're like okay, and then like you're the whole entire time you're like, yeah, I don't really care about these characters, and you really don't the whole entire time. The assailants that come in, you're loving the fact that they're getting whacked. You don't even give a fuck that everybody and their mother is getting killed in this movie because even the mom and the dad, they all seem like they're just better than everybody else. They have
Yeah.
that kind of like we're rich and we can do whatever we want, and everybody in that family except for the girlfriend who the whole entire time you're just like I said, her coming out and becoming Rambo. You're just rooting for her the whole entire time. You're like, oh man, I just want to. And that's the thing about this movie, with with where this one, with the next movie when we talk about Don't Breathe having this sequel, unfortunately this one never had a sequel. I think it would. I mean, granted, yes. Where are you gonna go from it? Where are you gonna go from there? But it'd be just funny, like this girl just has really bad taste in men and dates another guy, and then they go to the house and the same shit happens again. To be like, I mean, why not? You can do Home Alone 1 and Home Alone 2, which is basically the
Yep.
same shit. Why not do this where it's just like, yeah, I mean, they're just, she's got, shit men that she likes, and, and then all of a sudden they try to fight and, fight for some, fight for some inheritance money. And she's like, oh God, I gotta go and kill people again. Cause like I said, you kind of wish that there were more assailants or more people in this family just to
Yes.
watch her take out more people in cool, different ways. You know what I mean? You're like, oh my God, what's it going to do? And like I said, even with that axe, when she had it set up, you knew someone was going to get it. And it got towards the end of the movie, and you're like, ooh, the cop's coming. Yeah, he's going to come through the door. He comes through the window, and you're like, oh, fuck, man. Come on, man. Why? I was like, don't tell me they're going to take this whole entire time to set that fucking gag up, and set this booby trap up with that axe, and no one's going to get axed in the head. And then, like I said, the cop shoots and then he goes back out. And I'm like, oh, he's not dumb enough to go through the front door if he just went through the window. Nope, he was dumb enough to go through the front door. So I was glad that they got to use it, because I was just like, man, that would have pissed me off that they would have set that gag up and didn't do it. But like I said, overall, I think it's a fun movie. It's like I said, I mean, it's technically a home invasion movie, but it's like a home invasion slash inheritance gone wrong kind of fun. But it still fits. I think it fits the category as a home
I think so.
invasion. I mean, because like you don't really realize until like in the movie that it was planned that way, but it
Yes.
still has that home invasion feel, like, especially in the very beginning. Where they're shooting people and telling people to like calm down or we're gonna kill everybody. Or especially because it's got that like that kind of strangers thing where they're wearing the mask and they're wearing like these animalistic kind of masks and stuff like that. I thought it was a cool take, like an extra little spin on that. Like, like some of the other movies that we've talked about where it's, like, I Spit on Your Grave or things like that, where it's like, you think this is gonna happen, and all of a sudden, the chick that you were like, oh, okay, ends up becoming the kind of the badass hero of the movie, and you're like, hell yeah! So it's like it's got that little bit of invasion slash like action packed shit. So I like things like that, especially when you're not expecting it. You know what I mean? Like the first time I remember watching that, I figured this was gonna be your typical strangers kind of movie or
Yeah.
something
I
like
feel
that kind of home invasion, and then it's like you add that little extra, and it's like, oh, that's really cool. I like that extra little spin and onto it.
Yeah, I was late to the party when it came to this movie. I mean, don't get me wrong, I've seen it a bunch and I saw it, finally got around to seeing it years ago, but I was late to the party on this one. I had some other friends that were like, "Dude, you really need to see this movie. It's fucking awesome." And it's funny because I remember watching the movie the first time as it started off, and I was like, "Look, we love camp, we love Goofy, and we like all this stuff. Like, look, I like The Strangers just fine." But the fact of the matter is, I don't think that movie's all that. I've always felt that way. Like, I had so many friends, my brother included, that were always like, "Bro, that movie's awesome. It's so crazy. It's so, what an amazing, the ending is insane." I remember watching that movie and liking it just fine, but being like, okay, eh, I,
Yeah, I was the
I
same
guess,
way. I
I
mean,
guess,
I enjoyed
I
it.
guess the ending was okay and cool.
Yeah, I was like, I enjoyed it. I thought it was
Yeah.
kind of cool. Where like, why did you do this? You were home.
Yeah.
You just happened to be home. There's no explanation of why they're doing it. You just happened to be home. Everybody else wasn't
Right.
home.
And that was my thing, is I was like, okay, fine. But this movie, it was funny because it almost started me off that same way, where I was like, oh God, really? Is this my mates just exaggerating again? Because it opens up with this like fuck scene that's going on. The girl couldn't look less impressed. Like, this
Yeah,
girl is just taking it. But literally, like, she's got this look on her face, like so bored, like she should just be reading a book. And then, she wanders off. Dude gets out of the shower. She's lying dead on the floor. He sees "You're next" written on the window in her blood, and then he gets like epically machete killed. And I'm like, okay, I'm willing to backtrack a little bit in my original, discontent and go a little further. but when and then it goes into like the real movie, and that's what I always really liked about this movie. I always thought it was good, thought it was solid, and I enjoy it quite a bit. So, Devil, my friend, when it comes to the obituaries, when it comes to this movie, I'll keep it short and sweet because I love so much about this movie. I'm going to give it some high marks because I really actually think it deserves it. Um, I love the kill count. I love the bloodshed. I like the uniqueness behind the kills. Like we said, Rambo, Home Alone, even a little bit of Becky kind of feel to it when it came to like survival, this badassness that, Violent Night, Ultimate Rambo heroine. But again, I like the concept of the story. I like the direction of it. I like the fact that there were the little twists that were tied in, where you just assume that her boyfriend just ran out to just get the police or get whatever, to then find out that he was part of it the whole time, where it was kind of a three-man job, technically, as far as where the inheritance was going to go, when it looked like it was just going to be basically the two like Dick, the dickhead's son and his girlfriend, the fetish queen or whatever, and then ultimately was supposed to be this three-person thing, but they're all just kind of idiots and retards, and we didn't. And I'm going to pull it back just a second because we didn't talk about the goof. One of the goofier scenes, but I couldn't help but get some enjoyment out of, is when he's stabbing his brother and he's taking forever to kill him, and his dude's like talking shit to him, like, why are you acting this way? And he's like, you don't understand, like, how this makes me feel. I need you to die. Why are you like talking to me while you're dying? It was so,
He's got like 47 different things stabbed into him.
yeah, dude, he's got like 47 screwdrivers just hanging out of him. But anyway, I love the bloodshed. I like the stylistic kills. I like the design, and I like the little various twists. I think it's a good adaptation on horror, on home invasion horror. I personally like the fact it's a standalone movie. I do agree with you, Devil. I would not hate a Your Next to. I would definitely go check it out. I think the idea of something like what you pitched, or just something in that nature of where she would go, never finding peace, people, just assuming that she's well off or in this community or living in this way. I mean, I wouldn't hate a Your Next to, but for the sake of transparency and honesty, I'd prefer it to just stay a standalone movie. I think it's stronger that way, and I like it that way. When it comes to Don't Breathe, which we're about to get into, it's got a sequel. I like the sequel just fine. I thought it was quality. I thought it was solid, but ultimately, I didn't think it was necessary either. I did think that it was a little bit more of a wasted film, but I didn't hate getting to continue on with the character at least a little bit longer. So I did enjoy it for that reason. But ultimately, I like Your Next. I think it's just great. I think it's a lot of fun, and it's a movie I always enjoy when I watch it, man. I'm going to give it an 8.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with you on that. I think it's a fun movie. I haven't watched it as much as probably as you have or whatever, but I remember seeing it like when it came out, and I remember seeing it a couple times, and it's like, and then like watching it's been a few years, and I forgot all about it. I'm like, when you pitched it, I was like, I think I remember this movie. And then as I'm watching it, I'm like, oh yeah, yeah, I remember this. I was like, I'm pretty sure this is how it went and stuff like that. So like I said, I enjoyed it. I thought it was a fun movie and stuff like that. I mean, I think some things were a little bit, I wish they, like I said, I wish some things would have been done a little bit differently and things like that. But I mean, in general, I liked it because, like you said, it was definitely like I wasn't expecting the extraness of it. So I figured, I thought it was just going to be your atypical, just home invasion film. But it was cool. I liked it. I liked, when that movie came out, just like with strangers and things like that, where people go to cons and they would wear the masks of the people and stuff like that. So it definitely had its moment in the sun as far as like memorabilia and people like cosplaying or things like that. So yeah, I definitely got to agree with the 8.0. I think 8.0 is a good marker for it.
Right on. So that's the way it's going to be. We're starting off hot. We're starting off strong there, Fangs and Infernos. You're next, starting it off right up top there with an 8.0 on the obituaries. But now we're going to make our way into the Devil's Pick. This is a movie that I like quite a bit as well. I remember seeing it in the theater. In fact, Devil, I feel like you and I saw this one together. But I always thought this movie was incredibly solid. It was definitely a fun take. one of the things I like about this movie specifically is I do think that this movie is kind of its own thing. And that's what I've always liked about this movie. Now, when it comes to any of you Fangs and Infernos that like your next for bloodshed and for weaponry and for fucking body parts going all over the place, you are not going to get that in Don't Breathe. In my opinion, Don't Breathe is actually less of a horror movie and honestly more of a suspense thriller. But it's definitely a home invasion movie for sure. Basically, the bottom line is you've got these three friends who are living their kind of separate lives. The main girl Rocky is the main secondary storyline. And by secondary, I mean it because the home invasion is the storyline. But the secondary storyline, if she's living with her mom who's strung out all the time, is always making accusations on her being like a sex worker or a hooker or whatever. And she just wants to get out of that life. And she's got this kind of like, you know, real tool of a boyfriend. Look, spoiler alert, sorry, not sorry. I was so fucking happy when this dude died. This dude's just such a wanker, but she's got this boyfriend that you can always kind of assume that they were together, but they never really acknowledge it except for like one line when he calls her his bitch. Um, and then you've got the third guy who's kind of like the brains of the operation because his dad works in home security, so he's able to get keys made and can get access to all these houses that ultimately they rob. And they had heard about this blind guy, military veteran, who came into some money due to the death of his daughter, and it should be an easy score. And at first, the brains guy doesn't really want to do it because he's like, it's kind of fucked up to be robbing a blind guy. But then kind of gets coaxed into it because even Rocky, because she's trying to get out of her situation, is like, yeah, but if we do it right, we'll never have to do something like this again. And ultimately, that kind of wins him over to where eventually he's just kind of like, I,
Yeah, yeah. With the third guy who was in it, the one whose father was the that I say that he's basically the Ducky character in horror, where he's basically the guy who is in love with Rocky the whole entire time, but
yeah,
she's got a boyfriend and all this stuff like that. And yeah, this guy is gonna do all the good things and likes her and does stuff, and he probably would treat her better, but she's with the asshole boyfriend because because of her way her she was growing up. That's your typical like girl who's been abused and stuff like that's gonna end up going to guys who are abusers and things like that. You can definitely tell this guy, like I said, her boyfriend the whole entire is just like a complete piece of shit.
his
You know what I
name's
mean?
Money for fuck's sake.
Yeah, and then yeah, and then when he gets killed is probably one of my favorite scenes, man. He gets that pistol to the freaking head, and it's like
Yeah,
that
dude,
cool
that
slow
that
motion, but
that is your definition of fuck around and find out.
yeah, I love that. I love the fact that this movie. Yeah, they break into this house, try to find this money. He does. It's a blind guy and the whole entire time. But yeah, there was just certain things that's like where it was like you're just laughing the whole entire time too. It's like you're going into the house and stuff like that. It's like yeah, this guy's blind. It's not like he's like they even found out before you even got in this house, he's a blind veteran. So he's a military veteran. So I mean, they don't really tell you what kind of veteran he is. When you kind of find out throughout the movie, he was probably more than likely like special ops kind of fuck you
Yeah,
up kind of veteran. But anyway, this guy is a veteran to begin with. So most people who are especially at his age, he's going to be a veteran that is blind, but it's not like he's helpless. So the whole entire time they're like doing things and making noises and doing things and stuff like that. I'm like, they try to knock him out or something like that. But it's like even when he's like setting him up and stuff like that, and he's sleeping and he wakes up for the TV and the guy's in the house and you're closing the door. I'm like, you don't think that. Especially if anybody knows anybody about blind people, I'm not saying that they become Spider-Man or some shit, but typically most people who are blind, when you lose one, sense, you kind of get other senses. And like most people who are blind tend to usually have really good hearing. You know
yeah,
what I mean? And then you add in the fact that this guy's got good hearing, and has that blind hearing, he's also a military person, so he can know. So it's like all that stuff. So like it's gonna go down, and like that's my favorite part. You get into the movie, they're doing like that. That he kills the shit boyfriend. They're kind of trapped in his house, and I love it when like my favorite part of the whole entire movie is when he takes off the fucking power, and it's like, yeah, now all these motherfuckers are in the blind, and I love the way they shoot it. They shoot it really, really cool. You can kind of
Welcome to
see,
my
yeah,
world,
you
bitch.
kind of see him in the background because obviously he doesn't know where he is, but he's used to not being able to see. He knows his house. He knows how to move around it. And this girl, like, that last second that guy, the Ducky character just happens to call out her name and he goes after her, but she was just getting ready to reach straight into where he was because you could, the way they lit it, where they kind of gave you that, that like kind of like, like the dark camera kind of look for
Yeah,
the
it's
black, like the
but I also
infrared.
like that devil real quick. Is like I like that is typically most of those scenes are typically always that light camera or those like light goggles,
Yeah,
binoculars, whatever the night vision.
night
Um,
vision. Yeah,
Most of the time, it's those scenes are done in night vision. I love the fact that this wasn't. I love the
yeah,
fact that it was more. No, they're all on an equal plane of darkness. Yeah, obviously, you can't just have it as black because then you won't. You're an audience looking at a
not
black
seeing anything.
screen
Yeah,
and not hearing things. So I like the fact that it's lit enough as a gray shade that you can see everything. But I did like the fact that they didn't go the night vision direction that just typically everybody else does because nobody's using night vision. The blind guy himself, he doesn't use night vision, he doesn't use vision at all. So I like the fact that it was more of like super dimly lit to where you can see what's going on, but they didn't do that overused night vision thing.
yeah, yeah. But I like it. But I like the fact that they did it, and apparently, like in the I read like in behind the scenes and stuff like that. Obviously, the guy who played the blind guy had contacts and stuff like that to impair his visions. But they also like super like put contacts in the other actors' eyes to like make their eyes look really super dilated because of
Yeah.
obviously them not. But I love that. I was like, oh, I just want to be like, welcome to my world. You know what I mean? Now you're not. We're all in that flame, but I love it. Yeah, and then they go downstairs and then they see that Mr. Old Man is not typically who he is. I mean, he's got a girl captured who eventually you find out that was the girl who killed his daughter in an accident. So he decided to kidnap her and trap her down in the basement and basically say like, well, you killed my kid, I'm going to inseminate you, with my sperm.
Dude,
Which is cool because
that's
he's
the
like,
crazy thing.
even when he does it, when things go around and he gets Rocky in that same position, he's like, I'm not a rapist. He's like, but you killed my, I was gonna make it where she's gonna, I lost a child, you're gonna make a child for me, and then I'll let you go or whatever. And I love it. Yeah, he just basically turkey bastes it. But it's like, oh man, maybe like you're like, okay, this guy is a little more fucked up than that. He's got a little bit of that serial killer kind of like vibe to him.
Yeah, no, definitely. Because at first, when you realize that that's the girl that kills his daughter, at first, I just thought when I saw it for the first time watching the movie, during that scene, I thought he was keeping her hostage also just not only as a form of like basically torture for the sake of, the fact he killed his daughter, she killed his daughter. I just thought it was also kind of like almost as like a pet. Like, you are now my daughter. You are just going to be here with me now. It's not until, like you said, when he's fighting with Rocky after he accidentally shoots and kills her
Yeah,
that you find out that not only did he kill his hostage, who you just kind of thought was his daughter, he killed her and she was pregnant, which was the real reason is that, like you said, he was trying to make a new daughter. Now, the one thing that always kind of made me laugh and made me kind of like roll my eyes a little bit is I'm like, how are you even gonna know like what she's having? How pissed are you gonna be when she pops out a boy?
Yeah, exactly.
So
I
that was
always
always
thought
a
that.
little something of mine that was always like, oh, I loved the idea of it. I loved the thought process behind it. But but without, because they didn't show their work. And what I mean by that is there was no reason, even if they didn't address it directly, they didn't have anything like maybe like a sonogram machine there, like something that would let him know what she was actually carrying. Honestly, always kind of annoyed the fuck out of me.
Yeah, I do love the fact that when whenever whenever he was like, you killed her, and the girl was like, no, you did. And he was like, well, if you didn't break into my house, she
Yeah,
would have still been alive,
we're
and we
just
would
gonna
have had.
gaslight each other.
Yeah, but I love that. So he's like basically like, I'm now you killed her. Now I'm gonna put you in the same situation. You're gonna, I'm only, we're gonna, yeah, I'm not a rapist, so I'm not gonna rape you, but I'm gonna stick this, freaking beater thing into you, inseminate you and stuff like that. But I love the fact that it's like, yeah, he's like, like you said, it's like, well, how the hell are you? And then I love the fact that the Ducky character comes back and saves the day for a little bit, and she gets a little revenge on him by shoving the freaking blaster down his throat. It's like, here's a little bit of creamsicle for you, here, buddy, or whatever, or
Yeah,
not. But yeah, I
no,
mean,
for sure.
I love that. I was like, yeah, it was just kind of cool where it was like, yeah, this guy is like, definitely criminally insane, definitely serial killers. But even with that original girl, the whole thing that he made her was like, once you gave me a kid, I was gonna let you go. Now, whether or not he was gonna let her go or not, nobody knows. But yeah, I mean, he's kind of was like, okay, yeah, it's like, but then again, like you said, I was like, if she has a boy, do they go, oh, well, that's a boy, so now we gotta wait till you pop a girl out? Is he gonna keep
Right.
getting her pregnant until she makes a girl, or is it like, okay, it's a boy, whatever, I'll take it or whatever, I'll take any kid. But yeah, I was like, yeah, I love that, but I love that because I was like kind of like a weird, like I said, like with your next with the twist, I love that, it was a cool like twist in this where there's something else, extra with this house and things like that. But yeah, it's like, the whole entire time, as she's hitting the, like in the safe and they find that money and stuff like that, and he walks out and she's hitting the safe and stuff like, it's like, again, this guy's gonna hear that shit. This guy's trained. I love the fact that they bring this big ass Rottweiler and do it the whole entire time. And he's just like, going into town and things like that. But yeah, it's like, yeah, I just thought it was a cool way of just like, breaking it in. Or it's like one of those ones like, it kind of remind me of like People Under the Stairs, to an
Yeah,
extent where they're breaking into a house, not realizing what's going on in this house. That's the guys in the beginning. I mean, before Fool and all them go in, but the main guy and Vin Rames' character goes in. Obviously, the one guy gets killed because he wasn't expecting. They break into houses all the time. They figured, this was just going to be another house, and like these people, they, in the beginning of the movie, they show them going into another house and stealing a bunch of shit, which was I thought was kind of funny. Talk about how much we hate money and things like this, right? So they break, in the beginning of this movie, they break into the house. They show you that these guys have done this a bunch of times. They're all wearing gloves, right, to basically
yeah,
keep from DNA all over the place. But the guy decides to just piss all over the floor. And that's like, why are you wearing gloves when you're pissing all the floor? Pissing all over the floor is gonna show your DNA too. They can find shit from you from that too. So it's not like, I'm like, I didn't get that. But then like I said, that character deserved to get killed. And like I said, he was the character the whole entire time. You were like, you were rooting for him to die the whole time. But yeah, I like it. I mean, I liked it. I thought it was a cool movie. I thought it ended kind of neat where he's dragging her back and stuff like that, and then she kind of gets away and again, and she just keeps fighting and stuff like that. And the sequel was cool. I mean, the sequel was
yeah.
fun. I mean, it definitely was a different little bit of spin. You found out a little bit more about his character and things like that. But yeah, I mean, as far as it goes, I thought Don't Breathe was one of those ones too, where it was like it was a cool take and and a cool different kind of spin on the tropes and the things of like how these home invasions and or like you said like horror thriller action kind of films usually are.
Yeah. No, for sure, man. So when it comes into the obituaries of this one, how do you look at it? I mean, like I said before, I like Don't Breathe as a very unique concept. It definitely is its own kind of thing, and there's not there's not a lot out there that is in that fight for that type of like situation of this person being the victim. Yeah, but is he really? Is a little bit of that. So how do you look at things?
I mean,
Oh,
this.
hold on, sorry. Go here, hit pause.
Where the hell
Hey
is it?
baby.
Recording in progress. Back, we're back, and then we're back. No. But yeah, yeah. I mean, that's the cool thing I like about this movie and stuff like that. So yeah, when it comes to where I rank it as far as the obituaries and things like that, I mean, like I said, it's definitely going to be one of those ones that, like Your Next. It's a very, like I said, the movie in general might not be the greatest movie in the entire world, but I give it high remarks because it's something that you like. Your Next, something you're not really expecting. You're not you just like that. You weren't really expecting, this chick to be a badass. You're rooting for this guy the whole entire time when he's fucking these guys are breaking into his house, man. It's like, I mean, you find out that this guy's, got a girl trapped in his basement and stuff like that. But then, she killed his daughter, you know what I mean? So, or at least,
Yeah.
as far as the story wise. So it's like, okay, maybe, it's like I said. So it's like that revenge kind of thing or something like that. But I love the fact that it's like, yeah, like I said, it's just like they think it's gonna be easy money, breaking into a blind guy's and it's like, yeah, maybe, maybe your average Joe Blow, blind guy, but not a, ex-trained military blind
Yeah.
guy who's, who's definitely knows how to work his way around his house and knows how to use instruments and weapons and things like that. So, yeah, I mean, like I said, so I mean, for me, I mean, as far as it goes, I mean, I'm basically almost in that same spot where Your Next are. I definitely give it an 8.0.
All right. No, I can definitely match you on that one because I do really like this movie. I really do. I liked it then. I like it now. Um, I enjoy the second one. Like I said, like you said, and again, sucker for backstory. Love learning about where people came from. I I don't I don't feel that the second movie was necessary. Um, Similar to Your Next, with Your Next staying there, I kind of like it as a standalone movie. Kind of prefer that it had been that way because it felt a little rushed and it felt a little bit strike while the iron is hot, which I can always appreciate and I understand the value in that, but I don't always feel that it's a necessity. But focusing on Don't Breathe, just like I said before, I do really like the concept of this movie. I like the design of it. For a movie that's got damn near no kills in it, because it's only got three, and they're all basically the same, you know? You just have the stylistic kill of how Money got killed, which is fucking awesome. Fuck that dude. But they're all basically the same. So I like the movie. I like the fact that this particular, the way it's shot, making you feel how a blind person would move around, making you feel how what became the victims, the run, rabbit, run, as they're in the dark, learning and out of their elements. There's a lot of this movie that I like. I like the story it's telling. I like the twists where you think he kidnapped her for the sake of just now having a daughter in captivity, to the fact that no, he's making a daughter. But there's also the little stuff that's kind of weird to me when it comes to like, look, even when he went to take care, and again, it's never shown as to what, when he's got Rocky tied up to make a new daughter, he's got his man juice like ready to go, like in a cup, good to go. Now, has he been storing it? Or did he make it before she woke back up again, knowing that he was going to have to do this? Because again, if he's waiting for the birth of this child, he needs to find out what gender it is. So it would kind of make sense to have some on store on back order, for lack of a better term, um, in case it's a boy, and we got to try again. But again, it falls into a little bit of the category of show your work, where there's a couple small things that do feel a little bit sloppy. But anyway, I'm right there with you, Devil. I like it as an 8.5. So, as far as the two home invasion movies go, killer showdown as they're locked up at 8. When it comes to how the needle swings, I'll be honest, I do like it for your next. I like the style of that movie. As a movie, as an overall experience, I think it's more overall entertaining. I think the horror populace is going to be is going to gravitate more towards that movie. Again, I love the concept of Don't Breathe, the uniqueness of it and the story that it designed to tell with the mini stories of like why Rocky does what she does, why the love interest Ducky guy kind of does what he does, and ultimately what the blind man felt he needed to continue on in his life after such a tragic loss. But I like the needle swing for your next, for the kills, for the overall story, and just the entertainment value. Where I do feel that the needle swings down a little bit on Don't Breathe, where there's just a little bit of left up to interpretation, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but I do feel it's a little bit sloppy in certain parts. That's just kind of how I see it.
I mean, yeah, I definitely agree. I think it's between the two. I mean, I think I like the concept and the story of Don't Breathe better, but I think I like Your Next as far as the execution and the fact that like I said, other than that, blind scene from Don't Breathe when he cuts the power and everybody's blind. I'm like the whole entire time like, "Oh fuck yeah, now these people are fucked." Now you're living in his world kind of thing. I love that part of it. But then, like I said, I love the fact that, there's this, family and she's, going to these people's houses, rich people's houses. And all of a sudden you find out that, she's a badass bitch and stuff like that. So, I mean,
Just
I
taking
mean,
names.
yeah, so I'm like, so yeah, I definitely got to agree with that. I think that part of it was more fun. I was definitely, as much as I loved, the blind guy going around and fucking people up and stuff like that. What I mean? Yeah, that one part, but I love overall. I think just the chick just fucking home alone killing everybody the whole entire time. I mean, it's not like anybody else killed anybody. She literally took out everybody except for the parents and the people that the invasion people killed, but all the bad people that were in this movie are killed literally by one. And like I said, she fucking jumps and dives through a freaking window and goes out a second story window and just like has a big ass freaking part of a freaking window
Glass
glass
shutter.
stuck in her, and she's just like, yeah, fuck it, I'll wrap it up, I'm good to go. You know what I mean? She's like, like it, just reminded me of like Die Hard or something like that. Like I ain't got time to bleed shit. So yeah, I mean, I definitely think that like for the entertainment value, I think Your Next just has that little bit of extra pizzazz when it comes to it. But yeah, I think like I said, exactly with both being 8.0, I think they're both fun movies. They're definitely both good movies, and they're definitely movies that the Fangs and Infernos and all them haven't seen them yet. It's definitely ones to check out because they're definitely like there's some cool home invasions, but a lot of times most of them can have a little bit of that stale sauce. There's a couple of other ones that are really really cool that have some extra things that we'll probably tackle later on. But yeah, I definitely would say yeah, I'll definitely give the swing a little bit to the axe and the getting a little pork pie.
Oh yeah, give them the axe. So that's the way it's going to be, Fangs and Infernos. Killer showdown for this one on Home Invasion. This was a great one to talk about. We hope that you guys enjoyed it as well because we know that we enjoyed it. At a matching 8.0, Your Next against Don't Breathe. They match up on the scorecards, but for exactly the points that myself and Devil discussed, we are going to swing the axe in the favor of Your Next and a fatality blow to Don't Breathe. So that's the way it's going to be, Fangs and Infernos. Victory to the vampire on this particular showdown as Your Next takes out Don't Breathe. We will see you guys soon. You know we love it. It's always a great time hanging out with all of you great Fangs and Infernos. As always, if you like to look sharp and look your best, shop with our friends here at Rockin' Horror Apparel for everything Vampire and Devil, from t-shirts, hats, hoodies, tanks, all that kind of fun stuff. We really, really appreciate everything that Mark and Lizzie does for us. So check out rockandhorror.com for all of your official Vampire and Devil Podcast apparel. Check out our friends at Twisted Vines for horror decor. It's getting into spooky season. Ouija boards, masks, clothes, other kinds of fun goodies, jewelry. Saren and Chris do amazing, amazing work. Because it is the end of summer, you guys are probably still looking for a little bit of time off to spend with loved ones. Check out our friend Chris over at the Buffalo Bill House. It is now a bed and breakfast and an amazing time up in Perryopolis, very close to the Monroeville Mall, as well as, of course, the graveyard that they did Night at the Living Dead for. And, you know, we always, of course, do love to show a lot of love to independent museums that are keeping education and everything alive. So a shout out to our friend John, who owns the Salem Witchboard Museum as well as the Witchboard Museum of Baltimore. But there are lots of sponsors that we are familiar with and working with and partnered with. If you like hot sauces, we got Coney Island Saucery. And if you like to spill the tea, check out Brutalities. But that is the way that it is going to be when it comes to this particular episode. We'll be back a little bit later there, Fangs and Infernos. Take care. Be good to each other. Horns up. Fangs out.
Devil, my friend. Fashion. Things to wear. Possibly faces covered, but more importantly, covering up the bodies. Merch. We have that now. We are very, very excited to announce that Vampire and the Devil have partnered with our friends at Rockin' Horror Apparel. They are now taking care of the actual merch, the exclusive merch for the Vampire and Devil podcast, modeled by our very sexy devil right here.
Oh, yeah.
But we have all kinds of goodies to share with you.
Got the hoodies. We got some shirts. We got some tanks coming up. We got some booty shorts. We got all the stuff you want to wear from the Vampire and Devil podcast, thanks to Rockin' Horror.
Horns up. Fangs out. All right there, Fangs and Infernos. Let's talk about a brand new coffin nail, shall we? So, if anybody's familiar with me and how I like to go when it comes to watching vampire movies, honestly, I'm pretty much open to absolutely everything. And I've been actually very particular over recent times about giving independent filmmakers a shot. You know, seeing what their vision is, seeing how they want to execute things, and kind of seeing where they want to go with, you know, vampire genre in specific. So let's talk a little bit about Super Hot. Now, before you jump on me about the title, it just kind of is what it is. Look, that's what they named it. That's what I'm just kind of going with. Look, the devil loves his sin and skin. Not that the vampire doesn't either. But the fact of the matter is, look, that's just the way that they named it. Anyway, it's basically about this pizza delivery girl who quits. She's got a crush and finds out that he's being lured into a sorority that is filled with vampires. Look, it's an interesting enough concept. It's fine. It's fun. It's flirty. I like the fact it's got a bit of a modern spin because the movie is from 2021. A modern spin about like the fact that they put a lot of emphasis on like the three heroines that are kind of this like, you know, they're gamers, they're nerds, they're things like that. So I like the idea of this kind of like, you know, it's got a little bit of like that Scott Pilgrim versus the World or like Kick-Ass idea behind it. As far as like the heroines being basically people that you really wouldn't expect to be able to like save the world or rid the world of anybody. So it just kind of is what it is. They end up getting the drop on it. The main character, the main Dracula villain does get away, and they do tease an up-and-coming movie. It's kind of an interesting concept, though, when it comes to Van Helsing. They did have a Van Helsing character going by the name of Warren Van Helsing from quote-unquote kind of like the Bloodline, like trying to kind of make it seem like it's from that long, you know, list of, you know, vampire slayers under the Van Helsing name. But considering that the character was played by, you know, an Asian male, you know, I'm all about, you know, the idea behind certain characters. And there wasn't anything very specific about exactly him being a part of the line. So I think this has a little bit to do more with the concept behind the head vampire slayer going by the banner of Van Helsing. And that's kind of where they were going when it came to this one. But overall, it was fun. It was flirty. If they end up putting out the sequel, I'll definitely consider it. But it's still average. It's going to get a 5 out of me on this Coffin Nails. Horns up, fangs out for Super Hot. Ghouls and Fangs. Vampire and the Devil here. We got a little question for you. Devil, there's kind of a triangle, a three-headed monster per se, when it comes to Baltimore, that I don't think people necessarily realize. We've got Edgar Allan Poe, we've got John Waters, but what else do we have?
We got the Ouija boards, oh yeah.
Absolutely. Starting in Baltimore way back in the day, a lot of people are unfamiliar with William Fuld and Elijah Bond, who patented, and the birth of the Ouija board was right here in Baltimore. Devil and Vampire coming at you from the Witchboard Museum of Baltimore, courtesy of our friend John Kozik, who invited us out to check it out and shoot a little conversation action to let you guys all know. Of course, you've seen on our socials that we have partnered with both museums, and we couldn't be more appreciative to John for that opportunity. So whenever you're here in Baltimore, of course, right attached to the Bazaar Oddity Shop off of the Avenue, you have Witchboard Museum Baltimore. And when you're in Witch City, USA, up in Salem, Massachusetts, that's when you get to visit the Salem Witchboard Museum.
Oh yeah, if you want to see some cool stuff, see some cool boards, get some cool history, go see our boy John. Man, that guy is really awesome, man. That dude knows his boards, he knows his history, he's about preserving the society of witch boards and the talking boards and all that goodness. And you know, we love it. We love the fact that, you know, they were going to bring in this museum here in Baltimore, so all the Baltimore fans or all your East Coast fans or maybe not as far away, going up to Salem, come out to Baltimore and check it out, you know what I mean? Because there's some cool stuff in this museum, and you got to check it out because the devil and the vampire said so.
That is facts right there, my friend. Again, absolutely attached to the Bazaar Oddities Shop in the Avenue in Hamden for the Baltimore established Witchboard Museum, or off of Essex Street in Salem, Massachusetts for the Salem Witchboard Museum. Horns up, fangs out.